We're going to switch gears now and go back to fractions, and we're going to talk and review about multiplying fractions. I feel like multiplying fractions is one of the easiest things that you can do with math because they're really not trying to trick you in any way. There's no real trick or anything fancy or special that you can do. So hopefully you remember that how we multiply fractions together is that we just multiply straight across. All you're going to do is multiply straight across. Okay? So I'm going to write there multiply straight across. They don't have to have common denominators or anything like that. We're just going to multiply straight across, and then always what we do with fractions after is we simplify. Get that in lowest terms. So, if I'm going to multiply straight across, 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 5 is 15. Can that be simplified at all? Nope. So my answer is going to be 8/15. Continuing on there, I have 3/8 times 6/9. Go ahead and multiply straight across. 3 times 6 is going to be 18. 8 times 9 is going to be 72. What's going to be my greatest common factor that I could divide both 18 and 72 by? This is where your multiplication and division facts really come in handy because you got to know how to do all this stuff in order to move forward. So 18 and 72 can both be divisible by 9. So that's going to give me 2/8. This time I have a fraction times a whole number, 4/7 times 3. How do I make that 3 wholes a fraction? Well, I can just put a 1 underneath. And I'm going to do the exact same thing of multiplying straight across. So 4 times 3 is 12. 7 times 1 is 7. Oh, now I have an improper fraction because my numerator is greater than my denominator. So I need to change this into a mixed number. So I need you to think, how many whole times can 7 go into 12 without going over? Well, 1 whole time. How many are left over then? Well, 12 minus 7 is going to be 5. And I keep that same denominator of 7. So 4/7 times 3 is going to give me 1 and 5/7. This time I have 2 mixed numbers. So 2.5 times 3 and 2/3. We need to take those mixed numbers and we need to turn them into improper fractions. I like to use the popcorn strategy. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to explain that right now. Basically, you know, when we take 2 times 2 plus 1 all over 2. Do you see how that kind of looks like a big popcorn kernel? So 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 all over 2. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 2 is 11 all over 3. Now I can just multiply straight across. 5 times 11 is 55. 2 times 3 is 6. Oh, I got an improper. Got to change it back to a mixed number. So 6 can go into 55 how many times without going over? 9. 54. 6 times 9 is 54. So 55 minus 54 is 1. And I keep that same denominator of 6. Now there's one other way that you can do multiplying fractions together, and that's cross-simplifying. So that's a way where you can kind of simplify and multiply at the same time. So you're kind of simplifying before you multiply so you don't have to do it again at the end. But sometimes you do have to do it at the end as well. So this is just a strategy. If you don't want to use this, that's fine. I know some of you were probably introduced to it last year. Some of you weren't. So I'm just going to spend some time now talking about it. Another big thing that we have to keep in mind are integer rules when I do these. So let's say that this was -6 and 5/8. So keep in mind a negative times a positive is going to be a what? A negative. So when I get my answer at the end, I need to make sure that I have my negative sign there. So first I'm going to need to popcorn this. 6 times 8 is going to be 48 plus 5 is going to be 53/8, and I know that whole thing's negative, times 32 over 53. Now I'm going to show you our cross simplification. When you cross simplify, you're going to look diagonally at the numbers. Okay, so let's look first there. You're going to this time think of what is the greatest common factor I can pull out of both of those numbers. Well, they're both the same, right? 53 and 53. So I can pull out a 53. So 53 divided by 53 is going to be 1. Same thing down here. 53 divided by 53 is going to be 1. So I'm just left with 1s there. Now I need to look the other way. I have 8 and 32. What's the greatest common factor that I can pull out of 8 and 32? 8. So I'm going to divide both of those by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. 32 divided by 8 is 4. Now I'm going to multiply straight across. So 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 over 1 is simply 4. So cross simplification can save you some time, especially when you're working with the large numbers at the end, and you don't have to play the game of dividing it over and over and over again when you're simplifying if you can't identify that greatest common factor first. Oh, and what did we forget? Hopefully you can see that we forgot this negative sign. A negative times a positive is a negative, so my answer would have to be a -4. So just go back and make sure we're applying our integer rules, even though we may be working on fractions or some other skills. Next one there, 2.5 times 1 and 6/15. Let's popcorn each of those. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 halves, times 15, 21/15. So let's look diagonally. 2 and 21. Can I divide both of those by something? Nope. Let's look the other way. 5 and 15. Oh, I can divide both of those by 5. That's going to give me a 1. That's going to give me a 3. So 1 times 21 is 21. 2 times 3 is 6. Now I just have to simplify there. How many times can 6 go into 21 without going over? 3 whole times. How many are left over then? 3 over 6. And I know that 3/6 can be simplified to a half, so my answer is going to be 3.5 there. So see, sometimes you still, even if you cross simplify, will have to simplify again. All right, there are 4 problems there for you to try. Go ahead and pause the video, work through those, then push play. Make sure that you are doing them correctly. All right, let's see how you did. Multiplying straight across here. 7 times 1 is 7. 8 times 2 is 16. That's simplified as far as it can go. Number 2 there. Oh, keep in mind I have a negative times a positive. So my answer has to be negative. So 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 16 is going to be, and I could have cross simplified there, but I didn't at the start. 48, and I know it's going to be a negative. Okay, I can divide both of those by 6, so I'm going to get -1/8 for my answer there. Now, if you're going through these and you had something like -6/48, you're not technically wrong, you're just not finished. So we just need to make sure that we're putting it down in lowest terms. All right, for these next ones, looks like I'm going to have to popcorn each one. Now I have a negative times a negative, which is a positive, so I need to make sure that my answer is positive. Popcorn those. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, 9 halves, that's a negative, times 9, 10 ninths. If I'm going to cross simplify here, oh, those are going to end up canceling out to be 1. I can divide both of those by 2. So my answer is going to be +5/1, or just 5. Last one there, popcorn. Negative times a positive, my answer is going to be a negative. So that's going to be -5 halves, 17 thirds. Multiply straight across, I'm going to get a negative 5 times 17. 85, 6. How many whole times can 6 go into 85? Probably use the calculator for that one. It's going to be 14, -14 wholes. And 6 times 14 is 84. So I'm going to have 1 left over, and I'm looking at 6. Great. I will give you a check in class after your IP pages are done.